Welcome to Guyana. I am in the capital city of Georgetown and this is country number 52.
Welcome to Chai Travels. In this video, join me to see Guyana through my lens. I visited Guyana in November of 2022 and in this video, I will take you through my 5-day journey in Guyana. Before we get started, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Guyana is the only sovereign country in South America where English is the official language. It has the world's largest single drop waterfall and 87% of the country is forested. Guyana is an indigenous word which means land of many waters. It is also one of the least densely populated countries on earth. It was once a British colony and everybody speaks English. People also speak their regional languages and dialects. This region was colonized by the Dutch, British and French. After independence, the Dutch part became Suriname, the British part became Guyana. French still control their territory and is known as French Guyana. Until 1950, the country had a plantation-styled economy. However, things took a turn for the better in 2015 when huge oil reserves were found. The British brought in people from Africa and India to work in these sugarcane plantations, so you can see most of the country is a mix between these two races along with the indigenous people. The country is heavily forested with the Amazon rainforest, which is what I came here to see. I spent 5 days in the country, 2 of which in the capital city of Georgetown and the remaining 3 days out in the forest. I arrived early in the morning from Suriname to the capital city of Georgetown. I spent a few hours in the morning walking around the city to get a feel of it and exchanged United States dollars to Guyanese dollars. I didn't take a lot of photos and videos on my first day as I didn't fully feel safe to take my phone out as one of the locals told me not to take out my phone. My first stop was to visit the Step market with its iconic building and the Demerara River flowing behind it. I had a few bananas and an apple as breakfast. Right next to it is the Parliament building, which was not yet open at 8 AM when I had arrived. I passed by a few other buildings of importance on the main street, then went to St. George's Cathedral and saw it from the outside. It is a wooden church and was completed in 1899. I went there twice, but both the times it was closed. I had to make a few reservations in the city for the next few days, so I went up to the bus company, made a reservation to go to Kurupkari crossing, then went to Iwokrama Lodge office to pay for my upcoming stay, and finally to Ogle Airport to pay for my flight to Chaio Falls. By then, it had already started pouring, and so I was in my hotel for the rest of the day until I had to leave to catch the bus. I took the overnight bus to go to Iwokrama River Lodge and at 6 AM I reached the Kurupkari River crossing. I got off at the check post and the lodge guys were already there to pick me up. I was super tired so I rested during the day.
I am staying in this eco lodge for 2 nights and 2 days and here to explore what the jungle has to offer. Right now it's drizzling a little bit so I'll get back into my room. But this is connecting with the nature. Beautiful. Apparently there are some caimans here in this water and then occasionally some even come up to the banks. So I'm hoping to catch a glimpse of a few of them. Let's see if I can get lucky.
Iwokrama River Lodge was founded by M.S. Swaminathan, an Indian agricultural scientist known as the father of the Green Revolution in India. The lodge also serves as the research center and sits on the banks of the Esquivo River. The lodge manager gave me a tour of the place and I booked a caiman spotting tour at night. The tour was for an hour and a half on the boat where I saw caimans, tree boas and nocturnal birds. For the next day, I had booked the sunrise birdwatching tour at 6 AM and this was so much more fun as I could see the entire jungle waking up with the birds looking for food. I saw vultures, macaws, harpy eagle and many other small birds. The tour again lasted for about an hour and a half and I had a great time. My guide even showed me some petroglyphs drawn by some unknown civilizations. Once we came on shore, we saw the resident black caiman called Shankar. It has only 3 legs and is over 9 feet long. The caiman usually hangs out by the riverbanks near the lodge in hope of eating the fish discarded by the lodge. My guide was Michael Patterson, and he had a lot of knowledge on the forest and its wildlife. There are some trails that lead directly into the jungle, but I was advised not to go there as I might get lost without a guide, so I just went for some short hikes without going too deep into the jungle. The next day was largely uneventful as most of my time was spent getting back to Georgetown. The bus picked me up at 6 a.m. at the Kurupkari river crossing, and most of the time I was in the bus itself. I was told I would reach Georgetown at about 2 or 2:30, but by the time I reached it was 6 p.m. After a 12-hour bus ride, I checked into the Marriott Hotel, and luckily I was upgraded to a suite with a beautiful room of the Demerara River meeting with the North Atlantic Ocean. The last day in the country was the most interesting by far. The sun was shining bright, so I decided to walk around in the capital. I started at the Gyana Exhibition Center. Gyana is an indigenous term used by the Amerindians to describe their meeting places.
I'm here at the Hibiscus Craft Market to buy some souvenirs. Let's see what I can get.
I bought a wall hanging made of leather. I saw the magistrate courts, the National Library, the Supreme Court, and several other buildings. I then went to the National Park. The park is famous for manatees that live in ponds in the park. A local told me that there are about 70 of them living there. It was hard to really spot the manatees because there were a lot of floating weeds where the manatees were hanging around. It was about 11 a.m. and it was time to head to the Ogle airport for my flight to see the Chaio Falls. I booked a tour with Guyana Airways. My flight was at 1 and was delayed by an hour because the pilot was just taking care of some personal business, which pretty much cut short our time at the waterfalls by an hour. It was a 12-seater plane with a flight time of an hour where you can fly over the capital for the first 10 minutes and over the lush Amazon rainforest for the remaining 50 minutes. The flight was extremely scenic and you can see a few small waterfalls along the way, but the highlight is certainly the Chaio Falls when it appears on the left of the plane. Once we landed, we had about an hour in the park and one of the guides took us to 2 of the viewpoints. The first one was closer to the waterfalls that gives a good perspective of the width, and the second one is a bit farther away that gives a great perspective of its height. Chaio is the world's largest single drop waterfall. It is 226 meters or 741 feet high and is about 4.5 times the height of Niagara Falls. Due to its remote nature, it gets very few visitors as compared to Niagara Falls. While many falls have greater height, few have the combination of height and water volume, and Chaio is amongst the most powerful waterfalls in the world with an average flow rate of 663 cubic meters per second. After our hour was up, I came back to Georgetown, went to my hotel room and went to the airport. Seeing Chaio Falls was the number one thing for me to do in Guyana, and I'm grateful to have gotten the opportunity to see it in person. If you ever find yourself in Guyana, I would recommend visiting this beautiful yet under the radar waterfall. With the economy of Guyana growing, so will the tourism sector, and I don't expect the waterfalls to stay under the radar for long.